All right, so welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we are tackling something that's, well, it's gonna make you think and maybe even scratch your head a bit. Get ready, because we're going deep into the grandfather paradox. You ever think about traveling through time, like, going back and changing things, maybe even stopping something bad from happening? But what if, and stay with me here, what if going back and changing the past actually meant you were never born in the first place?
And that right there, that's the heart of the grandfather paradox.
Yeah.
It isn't just some mind game. It's like it shows us, if time travel was ever real, what could happen when you mess with cause and effect.
Yeah.
It makes us think about time not as a straight line, but maybe more like, I don't know, something that could bend and twist, and actions in the past could totally change the present.
So let's break it down for our listeners. The whole paradox thing. Imagine you build a time machine, right? Go back in time, and for some reason, you stop your grandparents from ever meeting.
Ah, but there's the catch. If they never meet, your parents aren't born, and that means, well, you aren't either. So the paradox is, if you were never born,
Right.
how did you go back and stop them from meeting in the first place?
Yeah.
It's like a circle, but a messed up one that makes our head spin.
Okay, so family history's off limits. Got it. But this paradox, it's bigger than just messing up your own family tree, right? It's like, it makes you wonder about time itself. Is it fixed, can't be changed? Or is it more like, I don't know, a river that flows and maybe we could, like, steer it?
Yeah, yeah. And if we could change the past, does that mean our present, our future, they're always changing too?
Yeah.
Big questions for sure. That's why this paradox, it's been around for ages. Got scientists, philosophers, and even, sci-fi writers all hooked.
I've always heard, like, whenever people talk time travel, Einstein's theory of relativity comes up. How does all that fit into this time travel stuff?
Einstein, he was a game changer. Totally flipped how we see time. His theory, it basically says time isn't some like strict, unmoving thing. It's mixed with space. It's called space-time, and gravity and movement. They can like warp it and stretch it.
Whoa, hold on, warped space-time? That sounds like, I don't know, some serious sci-fi stuff.
Well, sci-fi takes cues from real science, and this idea, closed time-like curves. That's a good example. They're like paths through space-time, but they loop. They could, theoretically, let you travel through time.
Like a shortcut through the cosmos? Sign me up, but I'm guessing it's not that simple.
Not quite. Even if those curves exist, they come with problems, especially with paradoxes like the one we're talking about.
Yeah, messing with the past sounds like a recipe for disaster.
And that's where Stephen Hawking comes in. Brilliant mind. He had this idea, the chronology protection conjecture. Basically, he thought the universe might have, like, safeguards, laws of physics we haven't figured out yet that stop those closed time-like curves from forming.
So it's like the universe saying, no time travel for you humans, I've got this handled.
Exactly. But even if, even if Hawking was right and going back in time is impossible, we could still think about it, right? Like, how could it work without everything going haywire?
And there are some theories out there, like, trying to do just that. We've got the self-consistency principle from physicist Igor Novikov.
Right, the self-consistency principle, it's a bit on the deterministic side.
Yeah.
It says, whatever a time traveler does, it was always part of history. You can't change the past because whatever you did, it was supposed to happen.
So, like, if I went back in time and tried to stop, I don't know, the Titanic from sinking, something would always happen to make sure it still sank.
Exactly. It might feel like you have free will, but your actions, they're kind of limited because the timeline has to stay the same.
If that's how it works, what's the point of even going back to change anything? It's like it contradicts the whole idea.
That's the big debate, right? Free will versus, everything being set in stone.
Yeah.
It makes you think, are we really in control, or are we just acting out a story that's already written?
It's a lot to think about. But there are other theories, right? Like the multiverse theory. That one always gets people talking.
Yeah, the multiverse, that offers a way to have time travel and free will, both at the same time. It says every choice, every action, it splits reality, makes a new universe where things go differently. So instead of changing your original past, you're making a whole new timeline with different events.
So there's a universe where I don't know, aced that history test I bombed back in high school.
Maybe. Every decision, every outcome, it could be happening in some branch of the multiverse. Makes you think, what is reality anyway?
It's both fascinating and a little bit, I don't know, overwhelming. But hold on, we can't forget about that third theory, the predestination paradox. This one sounds like it'll really twist our brains.
Oh yeah, this one's a real head scratcher. It says your actions in the past, they aren't just, set. The reason the present you're trying to change even exists, it's a loop. Like you try to change the past, but that's what makes it happen in the first place.
Okay, wait, so if I went back and tried to stop something, my actions would actually cause it to happen. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but with time travel.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, can you even tell what's cause and what's effect with time travel in the mix?
It's definitely mind-bending, and I bet there's been some pretty big debates about this stuff.
Huge debates,
Yeah.
definitely. This paradox, the predestination paradox,
Hmm.
makes you think hard about free will and what time even is. It's like, are we really making choices or are we just, going through the motions of a destiny that's already set? It can be kind of unsettling, but also, I don't know, kind of fascinating.
It is fascinating, it really is. But, thinking about the grandfather paradox and these theories, it always felt like more sci-fi than actual science to me.
True, time travel, it's still in that theoretical zone. Physicists are working on it. But this paradox, it's not just in like science papers and debates,
Yeah.
it's in our culture too, like everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you see time travel in a movie or show, boom, there's the grandfather paradox waiting to mess things up.
It's a classic, right? Instant drama. Characters have to deal with the consequences of messing with the past. And it's a great way to explore those big questions, fate, free will, what's real, all that, but in a fun way.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are some, like, the big ones, the movies and shows that really nail the grandfather paradox?
Well, the one that pops into my head first, Back to the Future, the whole trilogy. Marty McFly trying to make sure he's even born, getting his parents together. That's the paradox in action.
Oh, I remember that scene, Marty fading away at the dance because his parents aren't click. It's like burned into my brain. It
Yeah.
shows you, like, visually what's at stake when you mess with the past.
Exactly. The movie, it's got humor, it's got science, but it's not too complicated. A classic for a reason.
So, Back to the Future, top of the
Yeah.
list. Other movies or shows that do the grandfather paradox in a cool way?
Interstellar, that's a good one. Goes deep into those closed time-like curves, how time might be different across like huge distances in space.
Mm-hmm.
It asks, are we really stuck on a timeline? Or could we maybe move through time like it's another dimension?
Interstellar, that movie, it sticks with you, makes you think about the universe and where we fit in, all different.
It does for sure.
Hmm.
Then you've got Looper, a bit darker, more real world about what happens if you change the past. Meeting your future self, how your choices shape who you become. Heavy stuff.
Looper, yeah, thought-provoking. Imagine meeting your future self having to deal with the choices you haven't even made yet. That's intense.
Shows how the past, present, future, they're all linked in ways we might not even understand.
It hits me, we're talking about sci-fi, but these stories, they ask some pretty deep questions, like philosophical stuff about time and existing.
That's what makes the grandfather paradox so interesting. It connects like scientific theory with our lives. Makes us think about free will, destiny, who we even are in a way that feels personal and also like about everyone.
Okay, let's get philosophical for a minute. If we could time travel, would we actually have free will, or would our actions just be like pre-programmed steps in this big cosmic plan?
That's the question, isn't it? Philosophers have been debating that forever, and the grandfather paradox, it adds another layer. The self-consistency principle is saying even choices that feel free, they're kind of limited by the need for the timeline to stay the same.
So even if it feels like I'm choosing, I'm actually just like playing a role that was already written? Unsettling. But if the timeline has to stay intact, I guess it makes sense.
Right, but then the multiverse theory, it's like, no, your choices do matter. They make new realities. So there might be one reality where everything's fixed, but there's also tons of others where our choices lead to different things.
So maybe it's not about if we have free will, but like how much our choices affect the reality we're in. Maybe every decision, it's us picking a path through the multiverse.
That's a cool way to think about it. And then there's the predestination paradox, throwing a wrench in the whole cause and effect thing. If what we do in the past is what causes the things we're trying to change, then free will, it gets even more complicated.
I'm getting a headache just thinking about all the loops and paradoxes. But it's amazing. A simple thought experiment, the grandfather paradox, and it leads to such big questions.
It shows you sometimes the most mind-bending ideas, they teach us the most about ourselves and the universe.
Makes you question everything, for sure. But let's bring things back down to earth for a second. Is there anything, like in the real world, that connects to all this time travel and paradox talk?
You might be surprised there is. We aren't building time machines yet, but the ideas behind the grandfather paradox, they've sparked some interesting research, like in quantum computing and cosmology.
Quantum computing, that's all about those super fast computers, right? What's that got to do with time travel?
It's about pushing the limits, seeing what's possible. Researchers, they're looking into quantum time loops where particles can interact with themselves in the past. Could be huge for computing, lead to some crazy powerful tech.
So not sending people back in time, but maybe we can mess with time on a tiny scale.
Exactly. Using the weird rules of quantum mechanics to do things we thought were impossible.
That's wild. And what about cosmology? How does the grandfather paradox fit into studying the universe?
Cosmology, it's about the big questions. Where did the universe come from? Where's it going? The grandfather paradox, it's about cause and effect, the nature of time. They could help scientists figure out mysteries like the Big Bang and black holes.
So these thought experiments, they could actually lead to real discoveries.
Totally. Searching for knowledge, it takes you to unexpected places. And the grandfather paradox, it shows how thinking about the impossible can give us new ideas and push science forward.
It's pretty amazing, huh? Something like the grandfather paradox that sounds so out there, but it could really change how we see the universe and like the technology we might build in the future.
It really shows you humans were curious. We want to explore the unknown, even if it leads to, paradoxes and stuff that makes your head spin.
For sure. And speaking of exploring, we love hearing from you guys, our listeners. What kind of thoughts, questions have you had about time travel and this whole grandfather paradox thing?
We've gotten some really smart questions and comments, like one listener asked, if there's a multiverse, does that mean there are like infinite versions of me out there?
That's a good one. It gets to the heart of it, right? The multiverse.
Yeah.
If every choice makes a new reality, is there a me out there who made all the best choices? Or maybe one living a totally different life? It's a lot.
Yeah, infinite universes branching out with every decision. It could mean there are tons of us out there, each in a slightly different reality. It's mind-blowing, that's for sure.
Another listener, they asked something I thought was really interesting. Could the grandfather paradox, could it explain déjà vu?
That's a thought. Deja vu, we usually think of it as like a brain thing, a little hiccup in how our memory works. But some people, they think it could be a peek into another timeline, another universe, maybe even overlapping with another you for a second.
So that feeling of, I've been here before, it could be a signal from another reality. Wild, but I kind of like that idea.
It adds to the mystery, right? Makes deja vu even weirder. But for now, it's still just a theory.
Well, whatever it is, déjà vu, it makes you think, adds to the puzzle of life. Maybe someday science will figure it out. Is it just our brains messing up or something more?
Science has a way of turning the impossible into the possible. We might discover things about the universe, about ourselves, that change everything we thought we knew about time and reality.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the grandfather paradox. We've gone through the science of time travel, the theories trying to explain it, and even how it shows up in philosophy and pop culture. It's been quite a ride.
We've covered a lot, from Einstein to quantum time loops. And even if we haven't cracked the code of time travel, hopefully we've gotten you thinking, made you wonder about reality itself.
Definitely. And as we wrap up, we want to leave you with something to think about. If you could go back in time, knowing about all the paradoxes and what could happen, would you? And would you try to change things or just watch?
It's a tough one, no easy answers. It makes you think about what's important to you, how you see the past, what you hope for in the future. Would you risk messing up reality to change something in your life, or maybe try to change history itself? Or would you just watch, knowing that doing anything could have huge consequences?
It makes you realize how much our choices matter, how they ripple through time. So think about that, everyone, and until next time, keep exploring the universe and all its mysteries.
And remember, even if we can't time travel yet, our imaginations can take us anywhere, to any point in history, to any possibility. Until our next deep dive, keep those journeys going through time and knowledge, filled with wonder and discovery.